in 2011, Zmot created something that I call the zero moment of truth. And the zero moment of truth refers to the research that a patient would do online before making the decision to come into the office. And the internet, which in 2011 was very, very different, had empowered a patient or a person looking to find out about a service. They gave them more information than ever before to research prior to come into the practice on a service. They knew more about that than ever before. And that's really what the zero moment of truth allows them to do. And basically, as a dentist, we need to win that zero moment of truth before a patient's going to come into the practice. And if you're not front and center in there, if you're not visible online and credible online, you can't win that zero moment of truth. And they're going to go right over top of you and choose another practice, basically. Right. So, part of the biggest things for me is if you're not credible and visible, you can't win that zero moment of truth. So one of the big things I talk about during my seminars now is how to win that zero moment of truth, because it's such a huge, huge factor now that many people have never even heard of before,
Right. Yeah. So now you actually created an entire program called the 7 Pillars. And so, I want to go through each one of those 7 pillars, and we're going to focus primarily on 1 or 2 of them, but walk us through all 7, how Google, because it's not who knows you, or it's not who it's who knows you, right? Through Google. And these 7 certainly influence that.
Correct. So, I always like to say this. There's a couple of things, who knows you are your patients. Okay. Right. The people that know you online are called your patients. Well, the people that don't know who you are the people. Okay. So the goal here is I want people to know about you and become your patients. Right. Okay. So I call this the 7 fundamental pillars of reputation marketing. That's what I refer to it as, that allow you to win the zero moment of truth. That's what I refer to this as. And the 7 fundamental pillars are, and we'll break it down. One is called listings or citations. That's number 1. Number 2 is actually getting reviews from your patients. Number 3 is doing social media or being involved in social media. 4 is what I refer to as SEO or search engine optimization. 5 is having a great website. 6 is doing some traditional marketing. So there is some traditional marketing in there. And 7 is what I call content and experience. And those 7 pillars allow you to win, if done properly, allow you to win the zero moment of truth. Excuse me.
Because we can make a great argument. When you look at all 7 of those, reviews play so much more of a role than they have just even last year or the year before. It seems like everyone I talk to, even great private care practitioners that have been doing this forever based on referrals, they still say to me, it's crazy how many people look at reviews, So give us some insight on this, because we're going to talk primarily about reputation management and reviews. But what have you seen as far as the weight in regards to all 7 of these?
Well, I mean, by far and away, the 2 biggest weights to me are, I think there's the 3 of them that stand out the most are having a great website. I mean, I think you have to have a great website. I think you have to have an interactive website, one that attracts the attention of your patients. I talk a lot about websites during my seminars because it's your online hub. It's where you direct all your prospective patients to. It's where you have to have everybody. You have to have your main marketing medium has to be there. So you can't just have a brochure-like website. And there's a lot of companies out there that simply have a brochure. And it's amazing when I analyze websites for doctors, there's so many mistakes made on websites. And what do you think is the number, and I'll ask you a question if you don't mind. Yeah. What do you think is the number 1 mistake that web designers make or web companies make on a website for a dentist? Number 1 mistake.
Gosh, I don't know. Using a template or
well, template and duplicate content is obviously a mistake. But what information do you think is the most important information that a patient wants about a dentist?
Just knowing about them, the about us, or knowing about the doctor. That's my
even more important than that.
Let's say address.
Correct. So okay. They don't even put the address and phone number at the top of the page. It's buried somewhere else on the page. So the
Wow.
biggest, and we analyze these at the seminars I give, because a lot of the seminars I'm doing now are kind of bring your own computer and do hands-on sessions.
Uh-huh.
And everyone raises their hands and say, how many people violate this rule? The name, the address, and phone number must be at the very top of the page, either on the right or the left-hand side. You want a name of the doctor, name of the office, the address, the phone number, and an email address. Mm-hmm. And they're not, half the room or 2/3 of the room raise their hand because they're not there. And that's the information, that's the most important information, because you must be able to contact the office.
Right.
So I laugh at that. And you must make it interactive. You must have a call to action on every website. So I think that's the crux. That's the most important thing, is you must have an interactive site, not like a brochure. You must have a call to action. You must have contact information. You must have it video intensive. You must have videos, whether it's patient testimonials or videos of the doctors talking. You must have team photos. You must have, bios and photos of your team. Because remember, coming to the dentist is not the most comfortable thing for patients.
Right.
So you want to make it as comfortable as possible. Okay. Mm-hmm. Smile galleries. You must have, photos of your patients, and think smiles and faces. Don't think gross. No blood, no cutting, no images of disgusting things. Those are things that are going to turn patients off. Okay.
Yeah. And then how do you always feel about stock images? I have a personal feeling about that, but stock images versus real images?
No, definitely no stock images. That's bad. You got to take your own photos, and you got to put your own photos on there, because you know what? Your patients will call you out on that if they say, well, is that your case? And you say, no, it's not. They're out the door.
Right.
So you've got to have your photos on there. I don't know how you can be a quality dentist or a high-end quality dentist if you're not using your own photos out there. So you should be investing in like a top-end digital camera at this point, and taking photos of your cases if you're going to be a high-end dentist on the internet. That's my own opinion.
Absolutely.
I'm from New York. I'm going to tell you like it is. I'm sorry. That's just my opinion.
Hey, you have to. So Now, if I'm new to all of this, or let's say I have a website and I'm trying to do some traditional marketing, and I know reviews are important, Len, you teach a whole class on this. Where do I start? Because I think oftentimes this is a difficult conversation for dentists. Do they ask for the review? How do you do it? How do we make it happen? And you have a rule that it's like the first 10 are the most important reviews, right?
So I call the first 10 reviews on Google the prophylactic reviews.
Okay.
They protect you from a negative review. So because Google made some significant changes in the last number of months. So if you had less than 5 reviews before, you had no star ratings. You just had nothing. You had 1 review, which was negative. You didn't have any star ratings. Once you got to 6, you got star ratings. Mm-hmm. Well, now if you have 1 review and you had a negative review, now you have 1 star.
Okay.
If you have 1 review and it's 5 stars, you have a 5-star rating. So that threshold dropped to 1 review now, and you have a star rating. So it's changed the game now, because you have dentists who kind of hid behind that 1 review, which was negative. Now they show up as only having 1 star, which doesn't look very good online. So you have to really be careful now, and that 10 reviews protects you. In my opinion, the next 30 or 40 are going to give you a lot more credibility. And once you get over that 50 or 60 threshold, you start seeing a tremendous number of new patients that are calling the office. And when you ask them how they found you, and they're going to say, hey, I found you online and you had better reviews than anybody else. And that's what I've been doing with dentists for the last 4 years. And I have some practices that have 300, 400, 500 reviews, and they're getting 14, 15, 20 new patients a month, every single month, saying, I found them online because of the reviews you have. That's a big money generator every single month, just from being at the top of Google search in that 3-pack that we call the snack pack now. That's the way to the top of the search. I think SEO is important, but you can spend $500 or $600 a month on a good SEO package, and 5 or 6 months later you're still not on page 1, and you just spent $3,000 or $4,000. You're not going to be visible yet. Reviews make you more visible very, very quickly.
Yeah. Now I get this, but does anybody fight you in dentistry? They say, "Oh, I don't need reviews" or anything like that. I mean, are you hearing any of that kind of a feedback?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. I had a dentist I spoke to on Monday, and they have 13 Google reviews, and they wanted to spend about $8,000 to $10,000 a month on on an AdWord website and Facebook campaign from a marketing company, well-known marketing company. And I tried to convince him that he needs to become more credible online, and he took offense to that. Because we're really credible online. We have 13 Google reviews, 4.9 stars. And I said, well, let's Google your area, and we said, like, dentist in your area, and let's see what else other people have credibility. And there was a guy in his area that 180 reviews had 4.9 stars. He said, who's more credible?
Wow.
And he goes, well, he's not as good as I am. I go, well, Google doesn't think so.
Yeah.
So I quickly changed his mind that reviews are really important. And there's a company called Bright Local. I don't know if you've heard of that company. They run a local consumer review survey every single year, and they've done this since I think 2013. And every single year they interview consumers, and they do a review survey. And this review survey I show every single year. I show them at my seminars, and they've done some amazing things for the review industry because they have these surveys that really show the effect the reviews have on the industry. So they've shown that in 2016, 31% of people search online for a dentist and doctor. 31% have read online reviews for dentist and doctor.
Wow.
When judging a local business type, 60% look at overall star rating and 44% look at the quantity of reviews that a business has. So when someone says you need 4.8 stars and you need 75 or 80 reviews or whatever the number is, okay? Now what the crazy number is, for a local business, they have a study on how recent does a review have to be to impact your decision. Would you believe that 73% of consumers think that reviews older than 3 months aren't relevant anymore?
Really?
3 months? Yep.
Wow.
And that 22% will only consider reviews written in the last 2 weeks. So, I refer to that as the velocity of reviews.
Okay.
So you want reviews that are coming in fast and furious. And then I always get from doctors, well, Google doesn't want you to get, more than like a couple of reviews a day, and that's bogus. I have offices that are getting 10, 12, 15 reviews in a single day. Wow. And that's the most important thing. You want reviews that are coming in fast and furious from your patients, because that just tells Google that you're a trusted business.
Right. Right. So the big question is, how do I do that? So let's say I'm a dentist watching this. Okay, I get it, Len, but how in the world are you getting 10 to 15 reviews a day? I've heard this, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to have more success when you preface the review by explaining to the patient and talking to them before actually having them do that. So walk us through the process. How do I even go down that road and start getting these kind of reviews and their positive reviews?
So first off, I want to point out one thing. So I don't like the word review. Okay. So, I hear a lot of people talking to their patients, and they say, go ahead, would you go home? The patient comes on, how was your experience? Oh, it was wonderful. Well, you know what? I would love for you to go home and do a review for us online. To me, that just doesn't sound good. It sounds corny. I hate to say it, So I like to talk to patients about providing feedback about their experience. I just think it sounds better. Okay. Right. So feedback about their experience, I think, is a better term. So you want to ask your patients for feedback. Okay. Right. So, and then what I do is we send the patient, a text message to their phone. Okay. The email open rates are significantly, less on an email than their text message to their cell phone. Everybody bombards patients with emails. I like to focus on doing a text message through their cell phones, and that's what and I like it to be somewhat automated, because I like to help filter out some of the negative feedback that we're getting. Right. Because you always have those patients that are going to talk about negative experiences and they always like to convolute the truth. Mm-hmm. So I have a negative review online that says that, Dr. Tao is money hungry. He told me I needed braces and I wore them before. He also told me I needed fillings to be replaced. And if I didn't get it done, my kids would be born with disabilities.
Oh my gosh.
So
well, you're gonna have crazy people, right?
well, of course.
Yeah.
So I can't respond to that, but I also don't like it being online. So that would have been great for that person just to tell me about it, so I could have called the patient and taken it offline and responded rather than it being front and center on Yelp. Now,
Right.
I don't worry about negative reviews, Kirk. I mean, I consider myself the king of negative reviews.
Mhm.
So I have about 1,700 reviews online, 1,700 over 10 years. But I have 71 negatives. Okay. And I've been someone called me a creep bastard online. I mean,
Oh my.
So I mean, it is what it is. It happens. Usually it's about money. Usually it's about running late. But negative reviews are not the end of the world. I think it makes my business look real.
Yeah.
So, but I want my happy patients to talk a bit about me online. So by us sending them a text message to their cell phone, telling them they're going to get a text message that allows them to provide feedback about their experience. When they click on the text message, it asks them how their experience was, whether it was good or bad, great or below expectations.
Okay.
When they click on the below expectations, we apologize. We ask them to provide feedback so we can make their experience better next time.
Right.
That comes to me as a text message and an email, so I can call the patient immediately. And just to give you an example of that, I mean, I had a patient came in, needed a crown and the filling done. I handle, and as a consultant, I know you discuss working with financials with patients. I do I'm the financial coordinator in my office.
Okay.
I've always done that. I mean, never since my financial coordinator, my office manager, I fired 8 years ago. I've done the financial coordinating in my office.
Okay.
I feel comfortable discussing money with patients. It's been me, and I do a very good job. I have very high case acceptance.
Okay.
So I work on it. I told the patient the price. He accepted. He came in. We have a CEREC, did the crown in one day. He said, great experience, but I felt ripped off because of the money. If I went to my old dentist, it would have cost me blah, blah, blah money. That's what he wrote to me. It came back to me as a negative review. Didn't go online, but it came back to me. Okay. So I personally reached out to the patient the next morning when I got it, apologized that he felt that way, talked it through with him, told him I could fix it by doing this, this, and this. And he changed his review online to a positive experience. But it enabled me to reach out to the patient right away and fix it before it, started a bad storm online. So that's what it allows me to do before it becomes public, and it's much harder to handle.
Yeah, now I've heard this too. Now, Len, take us into this. Whether you get a positive or a negative, especially a negative, make sure you reach out to the person if you know who the person is. But do you also agree that you respond to the positive positive reviews also? Yeah.
So in terms of the positive reviews, I'm a big fan of reaching out to the positives. In fact, have you ever seen the commercial online when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen? Do you remember that commercial?
I do.
So, when Google talks, you need to listen to what they say. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that Google said recently was they want you to respond to reviews online. Okay. That's one of the things. So I think you should respond to positive reviews. And people always say, well, what do I write? You don't want to write the same thing. So just as an example, let's say someone said, best first experience I ever had in a dentist, looking forward to my next visit at the office. Okay. Mm-hmm. So what you would say is, thanks for your wonderful feedback. Looking forward to seeing you at your next visit to our office. Right. Perfect response. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a great response to that type of review. Now, I don't like responding to negative reviews online. Okay. I don't recommend it. I have case examples of what can happen if you do. Really bad examples of what can happen. Because when you respond negatively to a review online, it allows the patient to re-respond, and that can start a big storm.
Ooh, yeah.
I do call patients when I get a negative review if I know who it is.
Okay.
So I take it offline, and I have examples of that where I've taken it offline. I fixed the issue, and the patient has changed the review online. They've gone and made it a 1-star to a 3-star, which is a lot better. Mm-hmm. So I definitely recommend handling it offline if you can. I think responding can cause a problem. I really do. And so be careful. And you have to be careful with HIPAA now. Mm-hmm. HIPAA laws really prevent you from really even acknowledging that they're a patient.
Really?
So and I would tell, my suggestions for those with negative reviews is use common sense.
Right.
Don't be angry.
Right. Well, the problem with common sense is it isn't so common anymore. People don't think through these, and sometimes they can be quite emotional. But if you have a negative review, a lot of times you're just calling and listening to them. And then, because that's half of it, call and say, hey, look, I noticed, or hey, look, I'm very concerned. And they'll tell you everything, right? True or not?
True. I mean, I run my practice a little differently. I'm very involved in every aspect of the business. I'm at the front desk. I answer phones. I check people out. I talk to new patients when they call. So when people call in and they're disappointed with something, I usually talk to them on the phone. And I've spoken to patients and I tell them, look, I appreciate you letting me know. I'll handle this is the way I handle it. And I'm not. I try to help. I try to be as smart as possible when I make decisions for my practice. Right. And if you use common sense in some of your decisions, you'll help ward off a lot of the potential negativity that can come from it. If you read some of the responses from people who don't use that same advice, they're angry and they don't think when they respond, and that is how you start some of the really bad storms that can be caused online. Is they curse, they really respond from the heart without really thinking about the response first. And once you put it online, it's hard to get away. Right. It starts that viral storm that happens. And I had a dentist in Texas who had a problem, and they released some medical records, which they weren't supposed to do. And, that's not really the best way to go about doing things. And so I always say, relax, take a deep breath, and keep on swimming like Dory did from Finding Nemo. And a bad review may spoil your breakfast, but it shouldn't spoil your lunch. Right. Because honestly, the best defense against a negative review is what?
Is not to get them in the first place.
Well, treat your patients really good, but the best defense against a negative review is more positives.
Right. Absolutely. Now you talk about, I want you to go back to that because you talk about the difference between credibility and visibility. And I love how you define both of those and how you have to have one or the other. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I always talk to doctors, and I get a lot of calls, and they say, "Hey, look, I want to do this, this, and this. What do you think?" And I say, "Well, let's look at credibility first. So to become credible online, you need reviews. Simple as that. Right. Google looks at. There's two types of credibility. Okay, there's credibility with your patients, and there's credibility with Google. Now, Google doesn't rank you on the first page necessarily because of credibility. Right. They don't. If you look at a Google search and you type in best or dentist in Philadelphia or dentist in any town, they're not always the best by star ratings. There's some with 3 stars up there. So Google doesn't always rank you because you have the best reviews. Okay. Okay. So credibility is having a lot of reviews and a very high star rating. Okay. Visibility is also becoming visible and being on the top of the search engines. So by having a lot of reviews and being more visible, you will drive more patients to your practice. So how do you do that? That's the question.
Right.
So the other way to become visible, from Google and be credible at the same time is to focus on getting your citations cleaned up. And that's a big unknown. And a lot of dentists have no idea what that is when I talk to them.
Okay. I don't either. So, I've got some kind of an idea, but give us an idea of what a citation is and cleaning that up.
So a citation is a listing online of your practice. There's usually a name and address and phone number attached to it, and there's not necessarily a link to your website. Okay. So an example of that would be Yelp. Yelp is a very strong citation for Google. Right. And Yelp is going to be usually on the first page of Google for almost every doctor out there. Okay. Mm-hmm. Another one would be Yahoo. Another one would be Yellow Pages. Another one would be, another one, an unknown one is called Factual. Factual is a very strong citation for Google that nobody's ever heard of. Okay. Mm-hmm. But these are all citations. They're all online. They're usually acquired through a registration process, but they're also kind of just spawn like rabbits online by themselves. Mm-hmm. And they usually have wrong information on it. Okay. But here's the thing. The more places you're cited correctly online, the more trust Google has in your business. Okay. And the higher they're going to rank you. So think of this for a second. The more reviews you have, the higher Google ranks you. Mm-hmm. The more citations that are correct, the higher Google ranks you. Okay. The more reviews you have, the more patients you're going to trust that are going to trust you, and the more patients you're going to get. Right. So the more trust Google has, you're going to rank higher, and the more patients you're going to get as well.
Right.
So, but the problem is if you don't have consistent citations, name, address, and phone number, Google actually penalizes you. So one of the questions I get a lot of when we're searching for people is, hey, why does this guy with 1 or 2 reviews rank higher than me and I have 18 or 20 reviews?
Right.
And usually it comes down to is they have more consistent citations.
Okay.
So here's the magic of it, or the not so magic of it, is the name, the address, and phone number needs to be consistent. So one of the biggest factors is there's a lot of suite numbers out there. So is it suite or STE? Is it Pennsylvania or PA? Is it street or ST? So is it avenue or AV? Is it PC or professional corporation? So all of these things have to be consistent. Okay. So there's a lot of companies out there that do this for you. Okay. Or can do this for you. And there's a lot of dentists who think they could do it themselves.
Right.
And they can't, unfortunately. This is not a do-it-yourself job. You can't hire someone to do this. You really can't.
Right.
So you have to hire and there's plenty of companies out there. There's Yext, there's Moz Local, there's White Spark. There's companies that do this for you and they do it well, but you have to get it done because it's a missing thing. And if it doesn't get done, and you have a lot of reviews, you may find that you're not ranking as high as you can. And I'm talking about, just to clarify, in the map pack. This doesn't really affect the organic rankings. Okay. So if you look at a Google search, you're always going to see at the top, you're going to see the ads. You're going to see below that a map pack of 3.
Right.
We call that the snack pack now. There
Okay.
used to be 7, A through G. Now there's 3. We call it the snack pack.
Okay.
And then you have to click on other places to see more. And then below that's the organic rankings. This affects the map pack, which is the top 3 dentists in your area. Okay. And the goal is to get to the top 3 because, as you know, how many people click to page 2?
Yeah.
Almost nobody.
Yeah. I saw a sign somewhere. I can't remember where I saw it, but it said the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google, and it was a joke, but the truth is no one ever goes to page 2.
I heard a rumor, and I don't know how true it is, but Google's going to try to go to auto scrolling like Facebook does. So nobody ever has to click to page 2 to see if that changes the results because nobody clicks to click.
Really? Yeah.
So
now let me go back to this. What you're saying very clearly is that the combination of all of these 7 adds to whether or not you show up as number 1, number 2, or number 3 on the first page. But really, reviews, it's huge. Like you can't. It's like a non-negotiable component of being on page 1.
It is a significant non-negotiable thing of showing on page 1 is reviews, it's website, it's even domain ranking. I mean, there's Google has a huge algorithm out there, and these are some of the biggest factors that are out there. But I want to share with you. You want to hear a couple more crazy statistics?
I love it. I've got a ton already here.
So how do online reviews affect your opinion of a local business? So 68% say that positive reviews make them trust the business more. So what happens when a patient trusts you more? They buy from you.
Right.
So 68%. So I have patients who come in my office and tell me, I've chosen you because you're online reviews. Just tell me how much something costs. I'm already coming in for the practice. Wow. And I think one of the most important things is, we talk about, personal recommendations, like word of mouth referrals. And I call them word of mouse now because they're online, Yeah. So do you trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations? So that's a word of mouth referral and online referral. And 84% of people trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations now.
Yeah, and that's true because even when you get a great restaurant, the first thing I'm doing is, I heard about this restaurant, and then I'm looking it up to see what everybody else said online. And I'm thinking, well, it's 3.5 stars. It can't be that good. And sure enough, it's like Google never lies, or Yelp or TripAdvisor. TripAdvisor has never lied to me once. When it's 3.5 stars, it's not that good.
You want to stay away. You want to stay away. And, if 84% trust online reviews as much as personal recommendations, that means that 16% don't trust online reviews. 16%. Now, how many people do you think use the Yellow Pages right now? What percent of people? 14%.
Oh, 14 do? Okay.
So how many people do you know still do Yellow Page ads? Almost no dentists. So why would you not be doing reviews right now if 86% trust them?
That's true. Good point. Very good point.
So that's why people need to be doing this. They're just, and if you're not, you're just behind the eight ball. And look, people say that, you know what, I'm just going to ask patients to do it. So people say, well, what are my options? I have no problem if you're going to ask patients. But what percentage do you think people, if you ask 100 patients, I want you to go home and I want you to do an online review for me.
Okay.
What percentage do you think actually go home and do an online review for you?
I would say it's probably extremely low, because as soon as I get home, I'm going to forget. I'm going to be caught up in the tornado of I have 4 kids, 2 dogs. You know, the last thing I'm thinking is I got to log in online and say something nice about my dentist. So I would say 10% to 8%, maybe even 5%.
The studies show about 5 to 7% actually do that.
Okay.
So you're right on. You're right on. And because I have a big sign I show up, life happens. Life happens.
Yeah.
You have an argument with your wife, your kid throws up on you when you get home, something happens else and you forget about it. Out of sight, out of mind. Right. You know why? You'll understand this. Why do they want patients to pre-appoint that 6-month recare? Because if not, they forget about it when they're due and they don't do it. So it's the same point here. If you don't prompt them another way, they forget about it. Once they leave the office, it's out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
So they're not going to do it. So you have to have that constant reminder to them to do the review, or they're not going to do it.
Okay, so let me ask you some more questions. Are you texting every patient almost every day in every chair all the time?
No. So our system, what it does is it sends the review request out one time in a 30-day period.
Okay.
So if a new patient comes in today and they come in next week for a crown and 2 weeks later for the insert or a filling, they're only getting one message within a 30-day period.
Okay. That's good to know.
And that's how I've tailored my system, and that's how I teach it to the dentists I work with, because I don't want to over message them.
Right.
You know, the last thing you want to do is as a patient opt out if they feel like they're getting over messaged. Right. So I do it one time in a 30-day period, because that's how much in a GP practice, that's, most of your treatment is going to be completed within that 30-day time frame. Most treatments. Right. For bigger cases, not so much, but most treatment in a 30-day period, you're done with most treatments. So, but no, I'm not messaging every time. I'm not, and at the end of treatment for like Invisalign or any of these big cases, I'm sending them a manual request through our system, which is, at the end of treatment, I say, I hope you enjoyed, I love your result. I hope you enjoyed our time here. I'm going to send you a review request or a feedback request to provide some additional feedback about your experiences.
Okay. So, sounds good. And I would imagine you're probably identifying a lot of the people that you want to cherry pick to ask for reviews in a morning huddle type situation with your team. Always during the morning huddle, we discuss who we can get feedback from that day if we haven't gotten feedback from them already. Right. I mean, that's really, really important. And also, look, things happen during the day. You have to be aware of who hasn't had the best experience. Right. Okay. And, there's a lot of systems out there that are not automated. They're manual based systems, and there's nothing wrong with that. They work well. The problem with those systems is that the staff doesn't send the review request out as often as you would like. Right. I got a call today from a doctor in Florida, and he's been using this system, and I have nothing negative to say about any system out there. But he's been using the system for, I think he said about a year, and he's gotten 22 reviews in a year, and that's not very good. And the last one he got was 3 months ago, which just tells you that they're not using the system effectively. Right. And and the reason is he got I think 16 of the reviews in the first 3 months. Okay, and then afterwards like nothing, and the staff stopped using the system. So if you're not going to send the review request out, you can't get reviews. Obviously, you don't send the request out. So the interesting thing is, if you're doing it manually and a patient had a bad experience, my recommendation is always send a review request out to those patients, because you should be able to filter out the negatives, or at least get the negatives to redirect towards back to you, rather than having a negative go online on one of the sites that do matter, and then you have to have a potential PR crisis if it ends up in the wrong patient's hands. Right. Because there are patients that know what they're doing online, and they can start a PR crisis for the office if it's in the wrong hands, and that's my concern. Right. That's my concern. Yeah. Gosh, this is really good to know. What else do we need to know about Google when it comes to what can you expect? I want you to kind of predict the future, because Google's changing the game, as Facebook is. They're all changing their algorithms. What do you see on the horizon when it comes to reviews and dentistry and social media and SEO?
Well, I think that I think that reviews are always going to play a key. I think because millennials want that. I think one of the big things for office is to look at our online scheduling, having online schedulers on their website. I have one on my website, and the increase in the number of people doing that is phenomenal. I never thought that would take off as much as it did.
And I didn't either.
And it's just in the last week alone, I got 3 in the last 3 days that booked online. And I think in the last couple of years combined, if it was 5 of the whole 3 years, it was a lot. Now in a week, it's 3 people. So I think focusing on making it easier for patients to get information from you, getting forms online for the patients to fill out ahead of time, I think is really important as well. I think from a perspective, I think Google AdWords are going to see that the effectiveness are going to start to drop a little bit. If you are going to do Google AdWords, I think more and more people are doing it. And I think as more and more people do something, I think the effectiveness are going to wear down as more and more people start to do it. If you are doing Google AdWords, I think you need a specific number of reviews to make it effective. And I see offices that, because I search that, and I see offices with 10 or 12 or 15 Google reviews doing AdWords, because that's what the AdWords company they're working with tell them it's okay to do it at. And I think they're misleading those dentists. Right. So I think you need a lot more reviews if you're going to be really effective at Google AdWords. I think the future is Facebook AdWords or Facebook ad campaigns.
Now tell us why. Tell us why.
Because I just think, I think Facebook is where everybody's spending a lot of their time. Right. I watch behaviors. I'm a people watcher. Yeah. And I've watched over the years, I've learned what to do in my own practice by watching people's behaviors. Right. And asking lots of questions from people. Right. And that's what I've done for 10 years. And when people are in my operatories, I watch what they do. Right. Okay. And when I walk out of the room, they take out their phone. And where do they go? They go on Facebook. They go on Facebook. And, they go to see where their friends are, and they check in, and so getting your patients to check in is huge now. Okay. Right. Because what a check-in does, that's instant word of mouth. It tells people where you are. Yeah. So a check-in is a great is a free way of reputation right there.
And you legally can incentivize a check-in, can you?
Yeah, okay. You can legally incentivize a check-in. There's nothing wrong with that. You can't legally incentivize a review, though. I want to make that clear too.
Right, or a share. I don't think you can. Right,
you can't. Right, you can't legally share. Incentivize to share, but you can legally incentivize a check-in. And most importantly, as I get a lot of requests, that's another question you asked me in the beginning. What question do I get the most is about incentivizing a patient for a review. Right. So you cannot, and I repeat, cannot pay a patient. You can't give them a gift card for a review. You can't. The one thing you can do is you can enter them into a raffle to win something. That's probably the extent that you can do something. Okay. So you can say, hey, give us a review. We'll enter your name into a raffle to win something. That's legal. Okay. Right. But you've got to be real careful. Unfortunately, Kirk, we're in a very competitive space right now. Dentistry is very competitive. There are some dentists who are so competitive that they will rat you out like you can't imagine. Okay. It's a pretty sad state of affairs. Okay. Right. And, because of that, you just don't want to be public if you're going to do some stuff that are not exactly legal. Right. You can do whatever you want, but don't be public. Don't put on Facebook that we give you $25 for a review. I wouldn't do that. And I've seen it before, because your competitor will call you out on it and report you. And if Google or Yelp finds out, they may take the reviews down that you've generated. Right. Because they can do that. It violates the terms and conditions of these review sites. Right. But I think just be careful how you do things, and you will be okay. But so you can incentivize the check-in, which I think is a great way to do it. Because it's instant word of mouth. But I think Facebook is definitely a future. Although I will be very upfront about it, is unless you're willing to pay to play on Facebook, okay, which means you're going to boost posts, you're going to do some sponsored advertising. Right. I don't think Facebook is a great new patient generation machine, because the organic reach is extremely low right now, and it's very difficult to get reach from unless you pay for it. So just posting stuff isn't going to work to get new patients.
Right.
And there's a lot of companies out there that have made dentists believe that if they just do social media, that they're going to get new patients. And I think that's the wrong way for these dentists to believe.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair to them because, I think they have to be careful because, dentists sometimes believe too much. If someone says it, they believe it in a lot of ways. And, just like those Nigerian email scams, the reason they do it is because people actually give them money, believe it or not.
It's crazy.
So in this case, when they put out there that they get new patients from social media, they're misleading the public in that sense, or the dentist in that sense, because if you just post things on social media, chances are you're not going to get new patients from that.
Right.
But I think social media advertising, if you're willing to pay, you can get some huge return on investment from that.
Right.
So I think that's really the future. But it all goes back to, I think you need some great reviews online, and I think you'll definitely be at the forefront of everything online. Because again, 20 years ago, when you were referred to a dentist, what did you do 20 years ago?
You asked around. You talked to your friends. You called the office.
You just called the office and you made an appointment.
Right.
So you asked your friend who is a dentist. Oh, my dentist was Dr. Len Tao. Okay. Mm-hmm. Or the office, and you picked up the phone. You looked in the yellow pages, or you looked it up, and you made the call. That's what it was done. Okay. Right. Nowadays they look online. Okay. 83% of people use that personal recommendation, and they look online, and 52% of the time they're looking for online reviews before they actually make the call. And the scary thing is now even specialists are starting to figure that out, because remember nowadays, or back then, orthodontists were 90% word of mouth or doctor referrals.
Right.
Okay. Now with the advent of Invisalign, and I'm a big Invisalign provider, the orthodontists are not doing as many cases anymore. Okay. The periodontists, the general dentists are placing their own implants now. The endodontists, they're all doing their own molar and root canals, and they're not sending out. They're only sending out the difficult cases. So the specialists are not getting as many new patients from the GPs anymore as they used to. So the specialists are starting to get the idea that they have to start getting their own new patients now.
Right.
They're starting to figure this out, and they realize they have to start doing some marketing online, which they never did before. They never did that. That was not something they ever had to do. They now are doing that more often than not. When you look at ads online and you're looking at reviews, they're generating that stuff. So they realize that the time has come, they have to start doing it themselves.
Yeah. Well, I think if you own a business, period, the web is like a non-negotiable component of a successful business history. And with the ever-changing algorithms that are happening in Google and Facebook, it's going to be interesting. 1 in every 5 minutes is spent on the internet is spent on Facebook. Zuckerberg just purchased the world's leading technology in 3D. It's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens here in the future. And I just love talking to people like you that are right there in the middle of it, watching all this happen, because some of us are still attached to what we heard 3 and 4 years ago. Oh, blah, blah, blah. But it's constantly changing. Even what we're doing on Facebook, the algorithm changes every day, like every single day. So it's good stuff. Buddy, I know if people are watching this, there are going to be a ton of questions regarding how this all works. How do I even start this? What do I need to do? How do I get the first 10? You're just an incredible resource. So I did list this. I listed your email address and your number in the thing, but we're also on iTunes. So if somebody isn't privy to this information, can you give them how to reach out to you and if they have more questions?
Yeah, one of the things I like to do, Kirk, is I like to do personalized demos with the dentists. It's me. They get me on the phone. I sit with them. I show them how they look online. I break it down into how they look, how I think they can look, and I show them how things look online. So they can reach out to me personally, and they can call me on my cell phone. It's 610-733-2473. That's direct to me. And they can also reach out to me via email, and that's drlentau@birdeye.com. Like I said, they get me. They don't get some person who answers the phones. They will get me on the phone. A lot of times they can't. I respond very, very quickly. I give some ground rules for that. If I don't respond right away within an hour, it's usually because I'm in someone's mouth, I'm sleeping, or I'm traveling on a plane.
There you
Other
go.
than that, if I don't, I mean, those are the reasons why I don't respond within an hour. Usually it's 5 minutes, but those are the reasons why I wouldn't respond right away to anybody who's requesting information from me. But that's just how I run things. So
that's awesome, buddy. Well, I appreciate it. And if you ever get a chance to see Dr. Tao speak, his workshops, you actually have to bring a couple of them. You have to bring your own laptop. You actually do work while you're in the workshop right there. And it's pretty cool how that's in real time. So thank you, buddy. I really appreciate this. So stay on for just a second while we say goodbye to everybody else. But Len, we're going to have you back, just a whole bunch of other different topics. But hold on one second. Hey, if you're watching, I really appreciate you being on today. And if you found this valuable, do me a favor, hit the share button. I can't incentivize that. All I can do is ask for that, right? Because obviously once you share the information with your friends, and keep sending us suggestions like you are for things that you want to see, and we'll do our best to line those shows up. So until we see you next time, keep watching the Best Practice Show. You guys have a great evening.